we are going to see error handling. Okay, so for error handling, again I have written the document for error handling. If you go to error handling, the document is here. So we're going to go through this only today. How to handle errors in, that is how to handle application related errors. Okay. Now error handling. So let me open this. Okay, so today we are going to see error handling. Error handling in LoadRunner. Now error handling, right? What do you mean by error handling? I want to check whether a page is loaded. So if it is loaded, then I'm fine. Else, I want to pass a message so that I know that the particular application failed because of a certain reason, right? So this message that you're going to pass is going to come into your controller. So that is what we are going to see. If a page fails, if a particular page fails, how to send a message to the application. Now there are multiple ways to do that. Let's see what are the different ways of error handling. Now going back to the application. Right. Now in error handling, what we are going to see here is the first thing is return code. How to capture the return code, HTTP response code. Now what is this HTTP response code? Does anyone know what do you mean by HTTP response code? Anyone? Anyone knows what do you mean by HTTP response code? Fine. HTTP response code means that when a request is sent, when you from the computer sends a request, the server sends the response back with that response back is the response what you have to view in the browser along with a code. That code, if it is okay, the response is okay, it sends 200. The main codes that we need to remember for performance testing. 200 means it's good. 404 means page not found. That means you are say example you are searching for Sirisha.js file. You are searching for this. If this file is not available in the server, then you get a 404. The next one is 500. 500. This is internal server error. What do you mean by this? Internal server error means your application is down. The request is sent to the server, but it's not able to load the application. Then it will send a 500. Where do you see these response codes? Let's take Fiddler. I'm going to access my application here. Okay. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to load my home page. These are the requests that is coming from the home page. You see here 200. 200. This is the response code. You see the response code is coming here. Sometimes you will see here 500. Sometimes you will see a 404. That will come in red color. That means that specific request that you asked was not available in the server. That's what you said, HTTP 404. Now, to read more about HTTP response codes, go here, go to performance, HTTP response codes. Click on this. The full list of HTTP response codes are here. Okay, the full list. So for us, the main is 200. Then it is 404 and 500. 500. These are three. Sometimes you will see 503 also. But main is 500. So now we will verify for every page. Yeah.
Do we need to know all these codes, Rajesh?
No. This is here for your reference. If in case anything comes up, go here and read it. That's all.
Okay.
But what you need to know is 200, 404 and 500. These three you should know. Okay. If you send 401, if you are sending a request, a login request, and you are getting an unauthorized, that is your username password is wrong, you might get a 401. But this is not, but in your application, you will only check for 500 and 404. So in your error handling, you will check only for 404 and 500, nothing else. Okay? Fine. Any other questions, guys? So now what we are going to do is, first thing what we are going to do, we are going to check for 500 and 404. So let's go back to our error handling. And now, how are we going to check? So for this, what we are going to do is, we have a function called, where is this? We have a function for this. Now where is it? I'll put after my end transaction, I have a function called web_get int property. Now this function will go to the property of that particular page and get me the code. Now for this function, there are multiple options available. If you see here, there are 4 options, 1, 2, 3, 4 options available for this particular function. If you want the HTTP info return code, then you have to use this function inside the web-get. If you want the download size, if you are downloading a PDF document or a Word document using a performance testing tool, you see what happens is the tool does not download the file. There is no download as such in LoadRunner. So how do you know that the file got downloaded? What you'll do, you'll say get int property HTTP info download size. So that will give you the size of that particular file you are downloading. Similarly, you have the download time and total request stat. I have never used this. Main 2 that we use is these 2. So what I will do, I will put this in my request. So going to my performance testing, I'll put this inside my function. Now what I have to do, this will give me what is the HTTP return code. I have to assign it into a variable. So I'll say HTTP equal to. So whatever I'm getting here, I am going to assign it into this. Now, like in QTP, what we did, we just directly put a variable. We did not declare it. But here in LoadRunner, you cannot do that. You have to declare it. So as I told you, advisable declaration is advisable in the global.h because Otherwise, you have to put declaration in every action. I don't want to put it in every action. So I'll say int HTTP. That's all. Now this will give me the return code. Okay. Next, what I will do, I'll just copy this. Let me copy this code and put it here. So I'll use a if loop and say if my IHTTP code is equal to 500, then print this message. We will talk about these things later. Okay. Now, similarly, error message, print this message. Talk about these things later. Okay. Now, this is how I am going to check whether my particular application loaded or not. Right. So, what I'll do, say example, if I run this, I'm going to stop it here. Function F9 for breakpoint. Run this. Now, let's run this. Here. You see here? You see here, it is able to find that and it went and printed this. So it is able to capture the HTTP response code and it printed what is this. It's not wrong what I have given in my website. It's not wrong. Now when we do this same thing, you will see that it's working. It should have multiple, it should have the exact function definition. So I'm just copying what I have in my code. I'm going to take this return -1. Right. Now here it should provide I can provide the username and the time. So this I can pull it out from my, I'll create a function, parameter time and print what time this came up. I'll say my username here. Okay. If you run this, it should work. You see, internal server error message for user. You see, internal server error message for user Rajesh. For this is the user that logged in at time. Put a timestamp here. Current time. Right? I showed you how to put the timestamp. So create a parameter with the timestamp and put the timestamp here. So it will come show you at what time you got this error, which user got this error. So this is one way of handling error messages. Yeah.
What is that percentage yes at time percentage yes?
Percentage yes. That we will talk about it. Right. That's the next I'm going to explain. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Then we'll talk about LR valve string. All those things we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you're writing this function LR error message, right? What is the message you want to pass? That message should be passed here, right? So it comes like this. When you're passing the error message, you pass the error message like this. Let me clean this up. So I'll say LR underscore error underscore message, and then in bracket, what message you want to pass? What message? Now, whatever message, and then you are saying here, comma, I want a variable here. I want to print the name here. So my name is in the person who logged in at the time who logged in and got this message. So that is in their username. Now username is a parameter file. Now this parameter file is a string. Right? Correct. Guys, correct. This parameter file is a string, right? Now, what is the parameter file when we spoke about QTP? What was the data type? What is the data type there? It was a string, right? That's why when we took a value from the data, we had to convert it in using int. Remember?
Yes.
When we passed a value inside the function also, we put int, right? Similarly, when we are writing, you are enabled. You can talk to me. Now, when you are working with parameter, it is a string inside. So now, what I have to do, I have to put this value here. So I have to say username, right? This is how we represent the parameter. Now, what happens is, when you are putting it inside a function, you cannot directly put a parameter like this. We have to use another function. When it's inside a function, this is a function, right? I'm calling this parameter inside a function. What we did in QTP, we wrote the function name, say example login. This is the function in bracket, and I put the value inside directly in quotes, correct?
Yes.
The username and the password, password.
Yes.
But here you cannot do that.
Okay.
Because we did not put the parameter inside, the parameter that we are getting into the function, not like this, right? Parameter when you are getting, we directly put it like this, right? We put the parameter, say example, I'm taking it uname from the data table. I just put uname, right, here. I just put that variable here.
Yes.
But here, you see the parameter is defined in a braces, correct?
Yes.
So you cannot put a braces inside this particular function, inside the function. So you have to use another function called LR underscore eval underscore string.
Okay.
This function will allow you to put a parameter inside a function.
Okay.
So now what I will do, I'll put here LR underscore eval underscore string. And then put inside the bracket, I will put this parameter.
Okay.
I want the time. Again, that's a parameter. So again, I'll put LR underscore eval underscore string bracket, open close bracket. Inside that braces, I put time.
Even are we passing the time with parameters?
Yeah, the time, what I'm doing, I'm creating a parameter file for that. Now, yesterday we saw how to create the time stamp using the parameter, the date and time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll put it off here.
Okay.
Now, since these all are string, right? I'm saying this in this variable, in this message, continue with a string. So I'll say percentage yes.
Okay.
If these are variable, if these are integers, then I will say percentage D.
Okay.
So you print this value. Now you're going to continue with this function, and everything that is in the function is a string. So that is what I put percentage yes.
Okay. In QTP we keep int. Instead of here we keep.
If it's a string, you say percentage yes. Else, if it's an integer, you say percentage D.
Percentage D. Okay.
You're able to get me?
Yes.
Guys, you're able to understand any questions? So now, what did I do here? I put the value that I want, the string that I want to print, and then I will say user percentage yes at percentage time. Right. So when I say percentage yes, you see here, for user, up to this it got printed, and this percentage yes, this got replaced. At percentage time, at time percentage yes, so this got replaced. Guys, you are able to understand. So in the single line, I am printing the whole thing. So the internal server error for user percentage yes. So the first value got printed here, where the percentage yes is. At time percentage yes, so the second value got printed. It's just in the sequential order. If you put time here, the time comes here and the user comes here. You see here time, there is nothing, it didn't know what is time, because a parameter will be converted into a pink color, right? But this, it thought you are printing that time only. So it printed like that only. If I put %d here, what will happen? Let's see if I put %d here, what will happen? Function, I'm going to put a function F9. Let's run this. It will print a number there. You see here, it printed a number. Don't ask me what is this number. It just printed some number here. Something, it's converting this t into some binary number or something like that. It's printing the number. So that's why we put, if you want to print it as a string, you have to put it as S. Okay, guys, you are able to understand this. Any questions? Yeah.
Rajesh, when you can you move that? I cannot see. Okay, okay. When you see this below like LR error message, which is below that. Explain. Here we didn't initialize the parameters, right?
That's because I did not want to. Now, if you want to put this here, you will put this here also, right? Same thing, you put it here.
Is it not necessary to keep the parameters each and every message in each and every message?
You have to keep, because you are saying there are two strings.
Yeah.
If you don't want to keep, right, then you say.
Okay.
Don't put any percentage there. S there.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay, now you see here, it will just print that one. What is happening? Expecting a bracket here. Oh, it has to print. Expecting a bracket. You see?
Okay.
Since how many percentage, yes, how many values you want to print along with, how many parameters you want to print along with that particular variable, that's the number of percentages I have put here.
Okay.
So whatever you are passing here will be converted into a string. We are already passing a string.
Yeah.
So the string will just get printed. If you put D, you saw that it converted into a number.
Yeah.
You got it? Fine. This is one way of checking whether your response code comes in. Now another way of error messages. How to check the error message? The second method. Checking with WebReg find. Now in WebReg find, how do you check the error message? Now yesterday we saw how to do text check, right? Yesterday we saw how to do text check. Now in this text check, what it does, it just goes and searches for this particular value and says pass or fail. If it is there, fine. If not there, it will fail the script. But you can take a return value. That is, what do you mean by a return value? You can take a return value. Return value. That is, if my WebReg find passes, return me a number. That's what is a return value. So if it passes, it returns 1. If it fails, it returns 0. So remember guys, pass it return 1, fail it will return 0. So let's see what is this. So I go here. Now how do I capture the return value? Now the return value that I have to capture, I have to put it in a variable so that I can use that variable wherever the return value is need to be used, right? So how do I capture the return value? So what I will do, I will add another string here. Save count. save count equal to, now pass a variable here. So this is for launch, so I'll say launch, launch. Now what will save count do? Save count will take the return value of this particular function and put it inside the launch. Now what you can do, you can go here, before the end transaction, you can write saying if my return value save count, the code is here. Let's take the code directly from here. You see here, the code is here. Put this code here. Now what I have done here, let me explain. Let me arrange it and then I will explain. Compile it. There is some error here. If else. Okay. Now what we have done here is I'm going to take this launch and I'm going to put it here. Now you know that I'm getting a return value. Now the return value that I'm getting is a string. Right. The return value that I'm getting is a string. Now what we can do, I'm going to compare strcmp is string compare. I'm going to compare what string that I'm getting here with this. So that is what I'm going to do here. So I'll take the string compare. I'll say similar to what we did in QTP. I will say str string compare strcmp of, now what is the string 1? This is string 1, comma, what am I doing here? String 2. Now I'm telling you to compare these two strings. So that is what I'm doing here. So what I'll do, I'll take this string, I'm saying string compare, string 1, up to this is string 1, because since it's inside a parameter, I have to use this value like this. This is how we define the variable. Give me a second, guys. What did I do? My mouse. This is how we declare the variable. In LoadRunner, we declare the variable within a bracket, braces. So you cannot put string strcmp is a function, so you cannot put the variable directly inside a function, right? So you have to use lr eval string, open and close bracket, in double quote we put this string, comma, this is the string I want to compare to. So I'll say if this string and this string is compared is equal to 0, then print fail, else print pass. So what I will do, I'll put an end transaction here. I will say in my end transaction, I'll put an end transaction, I'll take this end transaction and put it here, else I'll put this end transaction here. Instead of LR auto, I'll say LR pass. And I'll take off this transaction out. So now what will happen? It's comparing these two strings. If these two strings are not right, then it will fail. If it is okay, if it is these two, say example, the return value is 0. That means my output is fail. I did not get the right output. Yep.
Rajesh, why is string 2 is 0? You don't have to, the first one could be like launch, could be the password, right? Here in this code, it will get the value of password, right?
See, it is searching for the text password.
Yeah.
If it gets the output, the return value, since I'm capturing a return value using save count, it will return me 1.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. So if it returns me 1, what is the value here that's going to be replaced?
1.
1. And I'm comparing with 0. Is this equal to 0?
Yeah, I get it. I thought that would be also the exact password string.
No. I'm taking the return code, right?
Yeah.
0 or 1. You're getting me now?
I get it.
Yeah. Let's pause it here. Let me put a breakpoint here. Let's run this. Uh-oh. What is the error message? Expecting. We missed one bracket. It should be this. Okay. Okay. So there is some bracket that is lesser here. So I have one open. Then why is this coming as LR eval string like this? Oh, it's a bracket here. Okay, fine. Now it's correct. Okay. Compile. Perfect. Okay. Run. What happened? It didn't stop only. Hold on. Let's see what it printed. The output message that we wanted to print here, this one. Now this is the one that should have got printed. Here. The string iteration number with parameter is not a delimiter. Now that's okay, iteration number, but where is this? Here. You see here, the save count that we wanted to print, that is, it got password. See, WebRed's find text is successful. So I got the count as 1. So now the saving the parameter launched as 1. Okay. Now it is going here. It is going into the string. Here. Succeeded. You see here? Iteration, add package. That's because I didn't change the name. Add package, customer name, username, login, succeeded. Can you see this? It printed. Now let's do this. Let me put a breakpoint here. I don't want this to run. That's fine. Let me change the password to password 1 so that it will fail. Now imagine it didn't get that page. You see? It stopped the script. Why it stopped the script? We put a return 0 inside, so it stopped the script. See? Add package failed. So that it failed. So here we said an error message, LR error message, because if it comes here, I know that's a failure. So I print it as LR error message. When you print it as LR error message, it comes in red color. Here I know that's not an error message, it's an output message, so I just printed an output message. Guys, you are able to understand this? Any questions? Any questions? So we do for, this is done for every transaction. Each and every transaction, we capture this particular web text, pass this into a parameter file, and then check whether that page appeared. So every transaction, after every start, the end transaction should be a error checking here. Guys, you are able to understand any questions? Yep.
Rajesh, can you go to end transaction script? Can you scroll down a little bit? I mean, in other script, we can see like LR_auto, right? What is the meaning of LR_auto?
Okay. LR_auto. See, this is for the transaction, right?
Yeah.
Now, LR_auto means that you take whatever the return code that's coming. That is, if this is successful, it got a message successful, right? Then you print pass, else print fail.
Oh, it will do automatically.
Automatically.
Okay,
But here, when this comes up, I know that's failed, right?
Okay.
So I don't want this to decide. I want it to fail.
Yeah.
So I put you see here, the transaction failed. See, fail status comes.
Yeah.
And I know if it comes here, it is pass.
Okay.
So I explicitly tell them to do what, tell the transaction to do what I want.
Okay. Got it.
Any other questions? Any other questions, guys? Fine. That's all about error code now. So what I want you guys to do is to put this error code in every transaction. There is a small typo mistake there, which I will go correct it. There is a small typo here. Here, after succeeded, there should be a double quote here, end quote here. When I typed it, I would have typed it wrong. So I will correct that. But you can use this code whenever you want to put an error message. Just use this code. Replace this variable name with the name. What I did, I copied this code. I just replaced this variable name with my variable that I'm using inside the save count. So instead of that, I put this, which is basically here. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Fine. Next, what we are going to do is runtime settings. Now, runtime settings is very, very important. Now, runtime settings is mainly important when we are executing the script. Okay, that is when you are putting it in the controller and start running the script. Runtime setting is very, very important. Your workload is managed using the runtime settings. So we'll go through runtime settings in detail, each and every option that is available for us to use. So how do you go to runtime settings? Again, runtime settings can be gone through three ways. One, press F4. You will have the runtime settings window open. Two, go to vUser, runtime settings. Or you see here a box with a black arrow. Click on that. It will open the runtime settings. Now, runtime settings, there are multiple options. Similar to what we saw in recording options, there are multiple options available for runtime settings. Okay, so each and every option that is there has specific requirement for or specific purpose for each and every options that are available. Now, run logic, that's the first option that's there. In general, you have run logic. Now, run logic is where you control your actions. Say example, init, you have init, that is where you're going to put your login. So let's do that first. Let's move the launch and login into init, action and end. We'll do that and then we'll come back to runtime settings. Let's do that. Now, web submit form most of the time won't work in the second iteration. Yep.
Rajesh, why do we need to use that function? Because in previous script, when we have written script in only one page, in only one action, it worked, right? So here it says.
No, but we didn't run multiple iterations, right?
Oh, okay.
When we run multiple iterations, it is failing in the iteration, nothing to do with the script. What is happening is it is not able to relate to this particular URL. Now, when you run this multiple iterations, it still has the URL for it to focus on. You see here, URL is coming, method, post is coming, everything is coming here.
Okay.
You are able to get me? No?
No.
What is happening? Why it failed now? Then log in only. Why? Launch. Sign on servlet. Second row. What is it taking? Let me delete it. This is it. Oops. Sorry. Oh, second iteration, you see, it's taking Chitra and that's not there in the system only, right? So it's failing. Okay. Now let's see. Now let's take this second iteration. Now let's run this. Run. That's why it was failing. Okay. Now it's gone in second iteration. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let me stop it and do it in the way we are supposed to do.
Okay.
Let's stop this. I'm going to take this out. Delete. Delete. Don't worry about deleting here. If you delete here also, nothing is going to happen here. Okay. I can add it up here.
Okay.
Don't think that if you delete here, the original action will go off. No. Now this is how we wanted to run, right? Login once, action twice. Let's see. See, it's working now.
Yeah.
That's because we have the URL and the method available for us to work with. So always when you're recording, record with web submit data. Okay. Fine. Now, in the runtime settings, let me go over that again. Okay, we had these issues. Okay. Now, for runtime. Fine. Now, runtime setting is, yeah, sorry, you have a question?
So along with recording settings, we need to set runtime settings.
No. Recording settings is only for recording. Runtime settings is not for recording.
Okay. Previously, you changed recording
That is
settings,
for
that option.
when I recorded and replayed it, I wanted to see this data, right? Whatever I parameterize.
Yeah.
For that, I went into log and did this.
Okay.
That's the only thing that I'll change.
Okay.
Okay. Fine. Now let's go with runtime settings again. Now runtime settings, again, as I told you, runtime settings can be launched in 3 ways. One, view, user, runtime settings, control. We can use, give me 1 second. Yeah, we can use F4 to launch the runtime settings, or we can click on this button to launch the runtime settings. Now, runtime settings have multiple options available. It is very important because our workload model that we design for our application is controlled or executed through the runtime settings. So, runtime settings have multiple options available. Run logic. The first option is run logic. In run logic, we have 2 things available in run logic. Okay, let me clean this up. We have 2 things available. One which talks about iteration. One which talks about iteration. And the second one talks about how to control your actions. Now, iterations. How many iterations do you want to run? Usually, when we run the test, we run for a specific time limit. We run for a specific time duration. Right? We run for 1 hour. So, we don't say how many iterations you want to run. So, this is usually left with 1. But when you're working with the script, you need to run at least 5 to 6 iterations to see whether your script is working fine. Because when you run for 1 hour, the script is going to go in this order. So it is going to launch the application, and then for the next 1 hour, it's going to run this continuously. So it will go 1, 2, 2, 3, again 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It keeps going to go this for till 1 hour. When you are running your script, if your multiple iterations that you run, say you are running for 5 iterations and it's not working, it's not going to run for 1 hour perfectly fine. So that's why when you say you finished your script, you should at least run for minimum 5 iterations to see your script is running perfectly fine. So that's the only time we use this iteration. Otherwise, we're not going to use the iteration when we are running the test. The second option available here is your action control. This is called action control. Now here, I can move the action up or action down. Anything I can do here. Now whatever sequence that you put here is the sequence it's going to run the script. Say for example, I'm going to move the action, select flight up. So now here it does not affect, but when you're running the script, how it is available in run logic, that's how it's going to run. Say if I run the script now, you see here it's going to launch and then do select flight. Since that URL won't be available, it will fail now. See, it did the launch, it's doing the launch now. You see, it went to select flight instead of flight finder. You see, it failed because it does not have that particular URL available, right? Because it has to come from flight finder to select flight. So you can control that here. You want to move it up, move it down, whatever you want to do, you can do. So that is what you do in actions. The next option, guys, any questions till now? You can delete the option here, move up, move down. Any questions here in run logic? Fine. The next option is pacing. Now pacing, what is pacing? Remember guys, I told you what is think time and pacing. Can anyone tell me the definition of pacing, what I said? Anyone? No? Pacing is no one remembers. What is think time? Can anyone tell me think time? Yep.
Time between two user actions.
Time between two user actions.
Yeah.
So your pacing is the time between each iteration.
Okay.
Now what do you mean by an iteration? Yeah, an iteration means that, thank you. The iteration means that right from flight finder to secure purchase. That's how we put in our runtime settings, right? This run, the whole thing inside the run is your iteration. So one iteration means 1, 2, 3. All the 3 actions to run one time is one iteration. Now the time between iterations is after it runs this. To start the second iteration, that is start the second time of select flight, it will wait for a specific time. Now I think let's run this 2 iterations. I'll show you that. Now I have not set anything in the pacing. What happened? Why didn't select flight again? Did I not change it? Let me take out the think time so that it will run a little faster. I'm going to say ignore. It's in the second iteration. It's done the second iteration. Now let's see how the iterations work. You see here, this is the starting of first iteration where it's saying flight finder. Now first iteration is completed. It started the second iteration with flight finder again. You see there is no pace, no wait time between the start and the end of the first iteration and the starting of the second iteration. By default, pacing will be as soon as iteration ends. By default. There are 3 options. The first option is default, as soon as the iteration ends, start immediately. Second option is fixed time of whatever you want to give. Say example, I want to give fixed time of 5 seconds. Now let's run this. Run. You see here, end of iteration 1. Now it is waiting after the iteration 1 to start the second iteration. You saw that? It slowed down, right? It slowed down, right? So here, you see here, iteration 1. Then it waited for 5 seconds and then it started the second flight finder. That's what is fixed time. Similarly, you have random time. Between, you can give a time between. So if I give 5 to 10 seconds, randomly it will generate a time and it will print, it will wait for a specific time between that time. So if I give say 5 to 10, any random number between 5 to 10 it will take and take that as seconds and wait for that specific time. At does the same thing. I really can't understand why these two are there. It does exactly the same thing. Fixed interval of every 5 seconds it's going to go and wait here for 5. Similarly, random is going to wait for that. It's both are the same. So we usually use the second option and we don't use the random. We always use the fixed time. Fixed time so that every time when you run the test, your result and the duration of total past transactions will be the same. If you give the random time, every time you will have a different number coming up. So don't do that. Always keep it to the fixed. Guys, any questions till now? Any questions? Fine. The next one is log. Now log by default, when you start any script, by default it will be always send messages standard. Now if you disable this, send messages only when error occurs, okay, and say standard, what will happen is that if I run, you will not get any any log here. You see here, no log gets generated. Now what happens with this? It will be very difficult to debug the script. It will be very difficult to debug the script. So when you are working with scripting, you will enable send messages, always send messages, extended log, because standard log will not show you the parameter that got substituted. So say extended log parameter substitution. Data return from server will give all the information that's coming from the server. The script will run for 15 minutes, where the script usually runs for 2 minutes, it will run for 15 minutes. So we don't use this option at all. Data return from server and advanced trace. These are all required only when you're doing correlation and you're not able to find the left boundary, right boundary with the standard log, then you enable these two logs. But 99.99% you will get it with this parameter substitution, always error message, you will get that. Okay. Now, if you say disable, again this whole logging won't generate only. Now when you are editing your script, it will be always send messages, extended log, parameter substitution. But when you are running the test with multiple users, you will say send messages only when error occurs. You will keep extended log, parameter substitution, but you will select the first option instead of the second option. Second option is only when you are working with scripting. When you are going to execute in the controller, select the first option. Guys, you are able to understand this? Any questions? Any questions? Okay. The next is think time. Now think time, let me bring it back. Yeah. Think time by default it will be ignore think time. Now the function, only for think time we have a function. Only for think time we have a function. Now this function in your runtime settings, if it is ignore, then this function will get ignored. It will not run this function at all. As soon as it sees this, it will skip and go to the next line. Now when you say replay think time, you have multiple options here. Replay think time as recorded, that is whatever you give here, it will do that. Say let's take a new script, I will show you that. Don't want to run the whole script here. Say example, I'm just putting LR underscore think time and I'm giving 5 seconds. Okay. Now if you see the new script, by default it will be ignore think time. So if I execute this, nothing happened because that 5-second think time got ignored because it's ignore think time. Now I'll say replay think time as recorded. That means whatever is put here, it's going to take that. You see, it is waiting for 5 seconds and then it will stop the script. See, it waited for 5 seconds. Now multiply think time, the next one. Multiply think time is whatever think time you put in this, it will multiply by the number that you provide. Say example, I give multiply by 2. Run. You see, 10 seconds. So what we usually do in our script is, when we are running that, when you are creating the script, by default we will give a think time of 5 seconds only. Don't give a think time of 10 seconds, 15 seconds and all. By default, we give a think time of 5 seconds. Later, if you feel the application is running faster when you are running it in the controller, you want to slow it down. By changing the runtime settings, you can slow down the application. Right. Now, if I say 3, it will multiply by 3. The next option that we have is random think time. So it says 50 to 100%. I can say, or 100 to 150%. What does this mean? 100% is 5 seconds. 150% is 7 seconds. So between 7.5. So between 5 and 7.5, it will automatically pick up a random think time. You see here. 5.1. Now if I run this multiple iterations, it will show you the difference. Now let me run one more iteration. Let's see what it is. You see, 6.75. Not advisable, because every time when you run, it will give you different results when you put this. So usually we run it as recorded or multiply think time. If you want to increase it, we usually increase it by multiply think time. Say example, you multiply the think time by 2, but you want the response, say example, you have put 5 seconds in your script. All the script has 5 seconds. Now you can only multiply by 2. You can't multiply 1.5 here. See, 1.5 won't work. It will throw an error message. If I say okay, how is it picking up 1.5? Oh, okay. What crazy. So now if you want 7 seconds, I want to increase only 2 seconds here. It's difficult to put 1.25, 1.35 seconds and all. No. So what I will do, I'll put it as 2 and I'll say limit to 7 seconds. Done. Now what will happen? It will multiply by 2, which is equal to 10, which is greater than 7. So it will print off 7 seconds. You see. You see? It prints 7 seconds. If I say multiply by 2 and I will limit to 8 seconds, I wanted to increase 1 more second and see how my response times are. I'll say 8. I can go like that. Guys, you are able to understand this. You are able to understand what I'm talking about think time. You are able to understand?
Yes.
You?
Yes, Rajesh.
You are able to understand? What about you?
Yeah, I did understand.
What about you?
Yes, Rajesh, I understand.
Yeah. So that is what we do with think time. You'll have a better understanding when we start running the execution. When you start running the execution, after I finish the settings here, then we'll do a calculation. You will have a better understanding of that. Okay? Of this think time and pacing. We'll only manipulate think time and pacing for the workload. Additional attributes, leave it as it is. No use for this. Miscellaneous. Miscellaneous, define each action as a transaction. This has to be unchecked. We don't need this option. Both these options has to be unchecked, because what will do is, even along with you put your transactions that you have put in your script, along with this transaction, it will create a separate transaction called secure purchase and give the response time. That's unwanted information. I don't want that. So I will uncheck this. Okay, so in this, all I will do is I will just uncheck this option and leave it as it is. Speed emulation, you can control the bandwidth. Say if your network is 100 Mbps. Okay, now in India you don't have 100 Mbps bandwidth, right? You have maximum of say 256 kbps or like that. Now you want to test with a specific bandwidth. You can provide, there are specific, see here, 64 kbps, 256, 128 kbps, 512 kbps. If you want specific bandwidths are available, no, you want to put a custom bandwidth, you can put a custom bandwidth. So what will happen is, it will restrict the bandwidth to only that particular value. So you'll know if your bandwidth is low, is very low bandwidth, how your application will respond. That's all. But we always run with maximum bandwidth. Whatever bandwidth available, we will run with that. Browser emulation. Now browser emulation here, this is where we set the agent what you want to run. So by default, it takes up whatever agent is available in your system. Okay, if you want to change the agent, you can go to click on change browser. What browser you want? You have 3 browsers available in IE. You want whatever whatever version you want to select, you can select what platform it's running, what language you wanted to have the test run. By default, usually we use the custom browser. So only if there is a specific requirement, like we had where we have to run the test only in IE 11. That's when we go and specify that. Simulate browser cache. So this simulates like how a browser has cache in it. Where, say, example, when you type the website for the first time, it loads faster. Second time, sorry, it loads little slower. Second time, it loads faster. How does it do that? That's because it's caching up information. The browser caches up the information that about that particular page. Do you want to do that? Yes, we want to do that because that's the default setting of the browser. Keep this enabled. Download HTML, non-HTML resources. We will talk about this when we are doing the stress test. So now when we are doing stress test, we will enable this. When we are doing load test, we will disable this. Why? What is non-HTML resources? All the JS, GIF files, CSS files, all those files that get downloaded from the server. If you do this, it will download every time. If you enable this, it will download every time. That will stress the system. But we don't want to stress the system. We are only running a load on the system to see how my application behaves. At that time, I will disable this. I don't want every time for that CSS and JPEG files to be downloaded. No. So I will disable this. While when I'm running the stress test, I will enable this. Simulate new user each iteration. This option we will enable when we have our user init inside the run. If you are running a test where every time the application has to log in and log out, every time if the application has to log in and log out, then we will go and enable this option. No, my application logs in only once and then it's going to stay for the next 1 hour inside that. Disable this option. We don't need this option. Okay, guys, you are able to understand till now? Fine. Proxy usually comes up when you are working in your company. They will give you when you are recording the script only, automatically proxy will come up for you. You don't need to worry about this. Automatically proxy will pick up when you are working. Here we don't have a proxy, so it is showing no proxy. You don't need to worry about this. Automatically it picks up when you are recording. Preferences. Here, leave all these things blank as it is. Nothing to worry about this. But the more important portion comes in options. Now options, HTTP connection timeout. The most important is step download timeout. What is this step download timeout? Now, step download timeout means that, see, you have your tool here. You have your server here. Now the tool will send a request, like how the browser sends, and it will get the response back. It has the start transaction and the end transaction. So what happens the moment it hits the start transaction, clock will start. It will send the request. When the response comes back, the clock will stop. Now this is the function. Now tool itself has an internal clock. When it sends the request, how long it should wait? How long it should wait for the response? How long it should wait for the response? That is what is specified here. 120 seconds. Sometimes what happens is the application takes 2 to 3 minutes to process your request. At that situation, you will get an error message saying step download timeout. It's not the application error. It's not your script error. It is because the clock which waits for the response to come back timed out because it's only 120 seconds. By default, we will change this to 999. By default, we'll change this and keep. The only thing that we change here is 999. Rest all leave it as it is. Download filters, we never use this. Context check, leave it as it is. Don't worry. So that is all what we do in runtime settings. Guys, you are able to understand till now? Any questions? Fine. The last thing that we will do for today would be to see what is the difference between this. Why is this think time and pacing important? Okay. My official clocker.
Yes.
My official clocker. Can you clock? Can you start the clock? Are you ready?
1 second. Yeah.
Not yet ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So now first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say as soon as the iteration ends and in think time, ignore think time. Okay.
You will tell me when to start, right?
Yes. Now I'm going to run an insert order. I'm going to run one iteration only. Okay.
Okay.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Start. Stop.
7.98.
So it took
7.98.
for one user, one iteration. It took 8 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, 7.98 is almost equal to 8, right?
Right.
Yeah, 8 seconds. Now, how long will it? So for how many transactions? How many transactions do we have? 2 in login, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 transactions, correct?
Yeah.
For 6 transactions, TRANS. So how long will it take for 1 hour? That is 3,600 seconds. So divide 3,600 by 8. Let's do.
It's 450.
Mine is so slow. Not loading only.
It's 450.
It's 450, right? So 450 into 6. How much you get?
2,700.
So in 1 hour, I will get 2,700 transactions, correct?
Right.
Right. Now, if I want, say, example, in 1 hour, I want only 500 transactions. How do you achieve this? If I was start changing my think time and pacing, let's first do with the think time. Now think time maximum I can go up to 20 seconds, not more than that. So what I'll do, first I will do is, I'll go to my think time as recorded. Now since I have 5 in it, I will say multiply by 2. Let's say 10. Let's take 10.
Okay.
Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Start. Stop.
54.69.
So for one iteration it took?
Almost 1 minute. 54.69.
So 55 seconds. Okay. So for one user, one iteration, and the think time is 20 seconds. Sorry, 10 seconds, right? So how many in 3600? How much it is coming up to?
360.
360 into 6?
2160.
216. What?
No.
47. What you're calculating here?
No. 1 second.
No, that's wrong. 55, 3600 into divided by 55.
Oh yeah, 1 minute. 365.55.
Into 6.
Yeah. It is 392.7.
392 point.
7.
Okay, 393.
Okay.
You see the difference
Mm-hmm.
in changing just the think time.
Everything then right.
So this is how we control. Now we manipulate this to get a certain closer number like this.
Okay.
So this is how the workload is entirely monitored. Now if you see the amount of stress that will happen when I put 2,700 transactions into the system to 393 transactions, there is a huge difference, right?
Right.
This is almost how many times? 9 times I've brought it down. Correct? 9 or 8 times almost. Right? 2,700, almost like 8 to 7 or 8 times like that.
7
Yeah,
times.
7 times. I brought it down by 7 times. So the stress on the system is coming down.
Yes.
That is how you control your workload. Now, when we do the execution, I will give you specific numbers like this. You have to go change your think time. Maximum you can go with the think time is only 20, not more than that.
Okay.
So after that, the next wait time would be on the pacing.
Okay.
So I'll give you numbers. You have to get those numbers by tweaking the think time and the pacing. Settings. To read more, I want you guys to go here. Let me clean this up. Go to the website. I want you to read the error handling and runtime settings. You see runtime settings, whatever I have taught is detail explained here. Everything is explained.